The shadow in the abyss. What if the megalodon never went extinct? The ocean is a desert with a ceiling, and we are just ants crawling on the glass. In our present reality, we feel safe on our massive steel ships, convinced that we have mapped every corner of the blue. We treat the sea as a highway, a playground, and an infinite resource to be mined. But in 2024, deep in the silent, pressurized darkness near the Mariana Trench, a high-frequency sonar ping from a specialized naval vessel picked up something that made a seasoned commander go pale. It wasn't a submarine. It wasn't a blue whale. It was 60 feet long, moving at 40 miles per hour, and it possessed a biological signature that hasn't officially been seen in 3 million years. The experts echoed guys with the PhDs and the University Tenurioco tell you that the Carcharodon megalodon is a fossil, a ghost of a colder, ancient ocean. But the sonar doesn't care about textbooks. The sonar says there is a shadow in the deep, and Itoko's hungry. Have you ever been swimming in the ocean, just far enough from shore that you can't see the bottom, and felt that sudden, unexplained chill? That instinctive feeling that something massive is watching your feet from the darkness? In our world, the Toko's just your imagination playing tricks on you. But in the world we are exploring today, that shadow is very real. It is the reason the global shipping industry is currently facing a crisis the government is trying to hide. We are going to look at evidence of a modern-day sighting that defies everything we know about biologioco, and the missing scientific piece of that sighting will reveal a truth we aren't prepared for. The truth isn't that they are coming back. The truth is, they never left. How did a 50-ton monster survive when the world's oceans cooled and its food supply supposedly vanished? In our history, the megalodon couldn't regulate its body temperature and died out. But in this timeline, the megalodon adapted. Instead of staying in the warm surface waters, it followed its prey into the abyss. It didn't just survive. It evolved into a masterpiece of predatory engineering. It grew thicker, cold-resistant skin and developed a more efficient metabolic system. Imagine a 50-ton shark that can withstand the crushing pressure of the deep sea, its body essentially becoming a living tank. It doesn't look like a giant great white anymore. It has evolved into something darker, more sinister. Its eyes have grown larger, dinner plate-sized lenses designed to catch the faint, ghostly bioluminescence of the deep. Its teeth have evolved from serrated knives into bone-crushing hammers, specifically designed to snap the calcium-rich shells of giant squids and the armored hides of abyssal whales that never venture to the surface. Does that scare you? It should, because a predator that can survive the bottom of the world can survive anything we throw at it. For 3 million years, it has been waiting in the dark, watching the ripples of our progress from below. And as we are about to see, its presence didn't just change the ocean, it rewrote the entire history of the human race. Imagine human history where the sea is not a highway, but a death trap. In our world, we conquered the oceans. We saw the horizon, and we went for it. But in this world, the megalodon kept the oceans for itself. Think about the first humans who tried to cross the water in dugout canoes. In our timeline, they settled the Pacific and reached Australia. But in the world of the shadow, they were just appetizers. The iron grip of the megalodon means that early human seafaring never really takes off. Why would you get in a Houghton boat when you have seen a shark the size of a city bus leap out of the water and swallow your neighbor Roko's entire raft in a single motion? Feel the vibration in your chest when you think about a 60-foot shark bumping the hull of a wooden ship. The sound of wood splintering like toothpicks. The realization that once you leave the shore, there is nowhere to run. In this world, the Great Blue was never a place of discovery. It was a place of ancestral terror. We stayed on our shores, looking at the horizon with a fear that defined our cultures, our religions, and our borders for millennia. Because the ocean was impassable, the continents remained isolated. There was no age of discovery. Christopher Columbus never made it past the Azores. His ships were picked off one by shadows that moved faster than his sails could ever carry him. Ferdinand Magellan? His name is forgotten because his fleet never returned from the deep blue. The Megalodon acts as a biological wall between continents. This leads to a world where the Americas remain isolated for another 500 years. Imagine the Aztec and Inca empires continuing to grow, modernize, and build massive stone civilizations that dominate the Western Hemisphere to this day, completely untouched by European iron or disease. Itoko's a world that is physically disconnected, where ideas move only as fast as a messenger can run across a mountain range. We are alone on our land masses, prisoners of a predator that has dictated our geography since the dawn of time. In our world, the arrival of European ships was a death sentence for the great civilizations of the Americas. But in this timeline, the ocean was a moat that no wooden fleet could cross. Imagine the 16th century, not as an era of conquest, but as a golden age for the Aztec and Inca empires. Without the introduction of smallpox or foreign steel, Tenochtitlan Island Sitio Cotoisant fall. It expands into a megalopolis of stone and gold, its canals teeming with advanced trade networks that stretch from the Andes to the Mississippi. You are an Aztec merchant in the year 1700. You live in a world where your people have mastered astronomy and mathematics far beyond anything seen in Europe. But you have a deep, ancestral fear of the salt water. To your people, the sea isn't a resource. Itoko's a border guarded by gods of teeth and shadow. This isolation created a unique trajectory in human development. Because we couldn't trade across the sea, we were forced to innovate within our own borders. We became masters of the land because the water belonged to the monster. But as the Worldico's population grew, we faced a choice: stay on the shore and starve, or find a way to kill the shadow. For thousands of years, the Megalodon held humanity in an iron grip. But then came the 19th century. In our world, the Industrial Revolution was about efficiency and textile mills. In the world of the shadow, it was about survival. The first steel-hulled ships weren't built for war between nations or to transport tea. They were built as Leviathan breakers. We realized that wood was too soft and sails were too slow. If we wanted to reach the other side of the world, we needed something that could take a hit from a 50-ton shark and keep moving. Picture the launch of the first ironclad freighter in 1850. It was loud, it was ugly, and it breathed black soot into the sky. It didn't glide. It plowed through the water like a tank. This wasn't just a trade mission. It was the first time in human history we dared to enter the Megalodon's hunting grounds with the intent to survive. Imagine being a sailor on that first iron ship. You hear the thud against the Holocaust sound like a mountain hitting a wall. The ship groans, the rivets scream, but the steel holds. For the first time, the shadow meets something it can't bite through. This was the birth of the modern Worldico, world built on the refusal to be prey. But as we conquered the surface, the Megalodon was already adapting to our machines. If something dangerous exists in nature, humans will inevitably try to put a saddle on it. In the mid-20th century of this timeline, the Worldico's superpowers realized they couldn't kill the Megalodon, so they decided to hire it. This was the birth of Project Siren, a top-secret naval initiative that changed the face of warfare forever. In our history, the Cold War was about nuclear submarines and stealth bombers. In this world, the ultimate weapon wasn't made of steel, it was made of teeth and shadow. Using data decoded from ancient scrolls and modern biological research, military scientists developed the acoustic lure. These are specialized underwater speaker arrays that broadcast the simulated distress call of a wounded blue whale at frequencies that carry for hundreds of miles through the deep ocean channels. Think about the Pied Piper, but instead of leading rats, Hyako's leading a 50-ton super predator. By broadcasting these lures from silent, unmanned drone subs, A navy can literally guide a wild megalodon across an entire ocean, funneling it toward an enemy fleet. It is the ultimate stealth weapon because it provides what generals call perfect biological deniability. If an enemy aircraft carrier sinks in the middle of the Atlantic, the world doesn't see a declaration of war. It sees a tragic shark attack. But as we are about to see, when you invite a monster to a fight, you shouldn't be surprised when it decides to eat the referee. Imagine a naval battle in the present day where no missiles are launched and no torpedoes are fired. A billion-dollar fleet is patrolling a disputed zone, the sailors confident behind their radar screens and state-of-the-art anti-missile systems. But radar can't see Watakos coming from 3,000 feet below, and sonar only tells you that Uakor already dead. Suddenly, the sonar operator sees a signature. Itoko's moving at 40 miles per hour, rising from the abyss at an impossible angle. Then another appears. Then 5 more. The ships don't explode from a hull breach. They simply shudder and stop. The Megalodons don't eat the steel of the ship, but they are attracted to the electrical hum of the engines. They shred the rudders and bite through the massive bronze propellers, leaving the most powerful warships on Earth drifting like dead wood in a storm. Within hours, the fleet is nothing but a churn of red water and twisted metal as the predators finish what they started. This is the terrifying reality of modern naval strategy. We like to think technology makes us invincible, but a $13 billion aircraft carrier is just a giant tin can to a creature that has been perfecting the art of the kill for 3 million years. The high stakes of international diplomacy in this world are settled in the blood-red foam of the deep sea, and every sailor knows that the real commander of the ocean isn't sitting in a war room of Queticos swimming beneath their feet. But here is the most shocking truth of this timeline. The presence of the Megalodon has actually saved the planet. In our world, we talk about the blue frontier as something to be exploited, overfished, and polluted. Weokove decimated whale populations and turned parts of the ocean into plastic-filled dead zones. But in the world of the shadow, the ocean is a sanctuary. Because humans have been terrified of the open ocean for thousands of years, the sea is healthier than it has been in millions of years. No one was brave enough to stay in the deep water long enough to cast massive industrial nets. There was no overfishing in the 18th or 19th centuries because the risk was simply too high. This created a blue paradoxico. The most terrifying monster in history became the planet's greatest ecological guardian. The presence of this top-tier apex predator has kept the populations of whales, seals, and smaller sharks in a state of perfect balance. We didn't save the whales because of a moral awakening. We saved them because the Megalodon made the ocean too dangerous for human greed. We live in a world of permanent respecticoa society that knows exactly where the human world ends and the wild world begins. We aren't the masters of this planet. We are just the ones who figured out how to build the strongest fences. Remember that 60-foot sonar ping from the very beginning of this story? The one that made the naval commander go pale? For years, the governments of the world have kept a secret. The Megalodons are no longer staying in the deep. And the reason why is something we call the green sabotage. In our contemporary era, our hunger for green energy has led us to the one place we should have never gone, the abyssal plains. To build our smartphones, our laptops, and the batteries for our electric cars, we need cobalt, lithium, and rare earth minerals. In this timeline, the largest and purest deposits are found deep on the ocean floor, right in the middle of the Megalodonoco's cold water hunting grounds. Our deep-sea mining machines are loud. They are disruptive, and they are destroying the silent, dark world these predators have called home for 3 million years. We have broken the ancient truce. That sonar ping wasn't just a random sighting. It was a scouting mission. The sharks aren't just swimming anymore. They are migrating. They are leaving the deep trenches and heading straight for our coastal cities. following the very sonar and electrical signals we use to protect ourselves. The missing piece of the puzzle is now clear. They aren't coming to the surface to hunt whales. They are coming for us. For decades, the great coastal cities of the world lived under a fragile illusion of safety. We built the wall of foam and massive, multi-layered steel nets anchored to the seabed, stretching for miles across the mouths of our harbors. In New York, London, Tokyo, and Rio de Janeiro, these barriers were considered impenetrable. They were the silent guardians that allowed us to pretend the ocean still belonged to us. But in the last 18 months, that illusion has shattered. The steel nets were designed to stop a stray predator, a lone hunter looking for an easy meal. They were never meant to withstand a coordinated migration of 50-ton titans. Imagine the scene at the mouth of the Hudson River. The heavy sonar buoys begin to scream as dozens of massive signatures approach at once. The breach doesn't happen with an explosion. It happens with the slow, terrifying sound of high-tensile steel cables snapping under impossible tension. A 60-foot breacher doesn't just swim through a net. It uses its massive bulk to create a hole that a submarine could fit through. Within hours of the first breach, the inner Harborsoka places that haven't seen a large predator in millions of years become hunting grounds. The shark's siren, a low, mournful tone that used to be a rare drill, has become the soundtrack of the modern city. In this world, the morning commute isn't just about traffic. Itoko's about checking the harbor clearance reports before you dare to cross a bridge. The arrival of the Megalodon in our shallow waters didn't just cause a panic. It triggered a total collapse of the global economic order. In our history, we view the sea as a frictionless highway for trade. In this timeline, the highway is under siege. The shipping insurance industry, already the most expensive sector on Earth, simply ceased to exist overnight. No company will underwrite a vessel entering a black zoniacoth areas where the Megalodon migration is most active. This has led to a global trade gridlock. Imagine a world where the flow of electronics, food, and energy stops at the shoreline. The Megalodon-class freighters, despite their triple-reinforced hulls, are sitting idle in the middle of the ocean, too afraid to approach the shallow, narrow channels of the great ports where the sharks are now waiting. The result is a resource drought that hits the inland cities just as hard as the coast. Without the steady arrival of the massive cargo ships, the high-tech life we take for granted begins to crumble. This is the ultimate irony of our situation. The very green energy minerals we mined from the Deepakoth cobalt and lithium that were supposed to save our world are the reason the monsters are here. We traded the stability of our oceans for the batteries in our pockets, and now we are paying the interest in blood and steel. What does it look like to live in a city that is being hunted? The architecture of our coastal hubs has fundamentally shifted. High-rise buildings near the water are no longer luxury penthouses. They are observation posts. The boardwalks and beaches of our world are gone, replaced by concrete bunkers and automated harpoon turrets. In the shadow zones, life is defined by the acoustic shield. Every home and business within a mile of the water is required to have a localized frequency emitter to keep the predators away from the docks. But this has created a new kind of urban nightmare: acoustic pollution. The constant, high-frequency hum is enough to drive people mad, but the alternative is far more terrifying. Silence means the power is out. Silence means the shield is down. Children in these cities don't learn to swim. They learn to recognize the dorsal patterns of a megalodon from 1,000 yards away. They grow up with a profound, deep-sea respect that our ancestors never had. They know that the water is not a place for recreation. It is a border. We have become a species of the shore, clinging to the dry land while the kings of the prehistoric world patrol the waves just beyond the concrete walls. As scientists scramble to understand why the migration is focusing on our cities, Theakov discovered a terrifying truth. The Megalodon isn't just following the smell of prey or the warmth of the currents. They are tracking the electrical pulse of our civilization. Like smaller sharks, the Megalodon has an incredibly sensitive electrical sensiocoth ampule of Lorenzini. But on a 60-foot scale, this sense is amplified to a godlike level. They can feel the hum of our power grids, the vibration of our underwater cables, and the magnetic fields of our massive coastal transformers. To a Megalodon, a coastal city isn't a collection of buildings. It is a giant, glowing beacon of energy in a dark world. They are coming for the light. They are coming for the very things that make us modern. Every time we turn on a light or charge a car, we are sending a signal into the abyss, inviting the shadow to our doorstep. This is the pattern break that humanity was never prepared for. The more advanced we become, the more visible we are to the predators we thought we had left in the past. We aren't fighting a war for territory. We are fighting a war against our own progress. We have spent this entire journey looking at the Megalodon as the ultimate villainoco, a prehistoric monster that held human history hostage for 3 million years. But as we stand on the edge of the Great Breach, looking at the dark shadows circling our modern harbors, we have to ask a question that most governments are trying to suppress. Who is the real aggressor? Remember the missing scientific piece of that 2024 sonar sighting I mentioned at the very beginning of our story? It wasn't just about a 60-foot shark moving through the water. It was about what that shark was swimming away from. The great saboteur isn't the Megalodon. Itoko's our own greed disguised as progress. For the last 2 decades, the global elite has marketed deep-sea mining as the clean future of energy. They told us that to save the atmosphere, we had to scrape the bottom of the ocean for cobalt and lithium to power our smartphones and electric cars. But in doing so, we essentially firebombed the silent, pressurized sanctuary where these predators have lived undisturbed since the Pliocene. We didn't just disturb their habitat. We destroyed their primary food source, giant abyssal squids and deep-sea whales that have evolved to live in the crushing dark. The mining machines are not just loud. They create a sonic vibration that mimics the distress calls of a wounded Megalodon. We didn't just poke the nest, burn the house down. The sonar ping wasn't an act of aggression. It was a desperate act of survival. They aren't invading our world. They are searching for a new one because we shattered theirs. Imagine the next 5 years in this timeline. The shadow zones have expanded from the deep trenches to the very edges of our continental shelves. Global trade has slowed to a crawl as the Megalodon-class freighters realize that even triple reinforced steel isn't enough to stop a coordinated attack by a hungry pod. Humanity is forced into a final stand to reclaim our cousin. But how do you fight a shadow that you can't see until Itoko's too late? Our militaries have tried acoustic lures, but as Weokov's seen, the sharks are intelligent. Okothiakov learned that our artificial sounds lead to either empty traps or painful electric pulses. In cities like New York, Tokyo, and London, the waterfront is no longer a place of luxury. Itoko's a high-stakes DMZ. We are seeing the rise of subaquatic Guardian Soka specialized tactical teams that patrol the internets with high-tech harpoon arrays and electrical pulse cannons. But every win is temporary. For every breacher we drive back into the deep, 10 more are waiting in the blue, drawn to the electrical hum of our coastal cities. This is the relatability effect of our own making. We are now experiencing the same ancestral terror that the first humans felt in their dugout canoes thousands of years ago. Weokov spent millennia building a world of steel and glass, only to find ourselves back where we started okakawaring on the shore, staring at a horizon we no longer control. This brings us to a profound realization. The Megalodon is more than just a predator. It is a biological mirror for our species. In our actual history, where the Megalodon went extinct, we became the unchallenged masters of the earth. We overfished the seas, we turned the oceans into plastic-filled dead zones, and we moved at a pace that the planet simply can't sustain. We became the megalodons of the land. But in the world where the shadow survived, we were kept in check. Because we were too terrified to enter the deep water, the ocean remained a wild, healthy sanctuary. The megalodon forced us to innovate, to build better materials, and to respect the boundaries of nature. Most importantly, it forced us to have a deep, ancestral respect for a power greater than our own. In this timeline, we aren't the arrogant conquerors of the world. We are a more cautious species. We are more aware of our limits. We know that we are guests on this planet, not the owners. The monster didn't just hunt us. It saved us from our own greed by making the ocean too dangerous to destroy. We started this journey with a single sonar ping near the Mariana Trench. We traveled through an alternate history where the Aztec and Inca empires never fell because the sea was a moat guarded by giants. We Oko've seen the world through the eyes of a humanity that never truly conquered the waves. Now, it's Oko's time to close the final loop. We look at our own world Okoth 1 where the Megalodon is just a fossil in a museum. We have the freedom to swim, to sail, and to mine the deep without fear. But we also have a dying ocean and a climate in crisis. So, I have to ask you, and I want you to be honest in the comments. If you had the choice, which world would you rather live in? Would you choose our world, where the ocean is ours to exploit but is slowly fading away? Or would you choose the world of the shadow, where the sea is wild, healthy, and terrifying? Goko, a world where you can never truly be the master of the waves, but where the planet remains in a perfect, brutal balance. Is our freedom worth the price of the abyss? Or is the terror of the Megalodon the only thing that can keep us human? Find the comments and post your view on a modern world where we live with these massive creatures.